Now I can see you.
Okay, good. Hi, sister. Ah,
Thank you so much for saying yes.
Wow. So
Mm.
good to see you.
Oh, likewise. It is so beautiful to see you. I'm just so thrilled that you're able to make the time, and I just love the way that you explain things. Sometimes there's these big concepts, right? And we might be studying them for years and years and years and just beginning to unpack all the layers.
Right.
And for people who are brand new to these concepts, I just thought you would be absolutely perfect to just lay that groundwork, that foundation of like what is this that we're talking about, right?
Right, right. And all I can do is really speak from my experience.
Exactly. That's perfect.
And yeah, that seems to go well. So
Yeah.
people seem to really resonate. You speak from your experience and in an authentic, genuine way.
Mm.
And not trying to use too many big words and all these super consciousness and all this. Yeah.
Yes. Sometimes like it's so confusing. Like one
Right,
person might mean one thing, one person might mean something completely different.
right.
And you're like, what are we talking about?
Sure, sure.
But I would love for you to just do like a nice quick little intro of yourself. Let us know who you are, how we can reach you.
All right. Well, my name is Sister Raya, and I've been on a search for God and for awakening and to really to feel the love of God within me ever since I was a teenager. It started at the age of 15. I became, really, there was this urge inside to do things differently than, the people in my culture. And to move in a different course, and that's where my life led me. I've spent 20 years as a mother, as a wife, um, and through that, I was really able to cultivate within myself certain things that are really valuable, just a love for God. And it started off as a love for Christ, and it started off through religious practices and things like that. But then I grew out of that into a more universal view. And I actually became a metaphysician. I study metaphysics. I love quantum physics. I love studying and learning about the science of it all and how practical spirituality can be. And I've also, for the past 5 years, I've been, in satsang with Muji, and following that course. I'm growing out of that a little bit now and moving toward other things. But I do have a passion for self-realization. I feel that God is within each and every one of us, and that there's a hidden potential, there's a treasure of gold within us. And right, and each of us, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, no matter what your past is, that you have the ability to tap into a universal potential, and which some people call God, some people call Christ consciousness. There's all kinds of different names, but I just like to keep it simple. And I call it the invisible intelligence that powers all creation, that moves the planets. And really that's my focus, to really to share my experiences, in a way that, like you said, is more simplified. So yeah, that's who I am. And really, I don't have a website. I don't, I'm not too much on, on that, but I do have a Facebook page, a Sister Raya Facebook page, a fan page. Also, I do have some courses. You can work one-on-one with me if you want to. One of them is to build the power of your presence. Right, where we come and we meet, and we meet in that way. I'm actually nursing right now.
Yay.
So you can see. We have my little baby here.
Oh, hi, everyone. I was just about to say congratulations on your newest edition. Oh, what a miracle.
Right. And I think that's more of what I what I want to focus in on is just, the beauty of everyday living, how you can apply your spirituality to your everyday life, your everyday living. And, every step that you take, everything that you do can be sacred and can be filled with spirit. But first you have to go within yourself.
Mm.
There's certain steps, a certain discipline that you have to have, of course. But yeah, first, there are certain steps that you have to take, but your whole life can become a meditation.
Mm.
And, right. Yeah, your whole life can become a meditation. And even, taking care of your children. And, just, I've spent a lot of years being a homemaker. So yeah, I've got to strap on my apron and make those muffins and,
That's right.
Right.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for that, sister. I just want to say how your sharing really resonates with me as well. Myself on the path, starting out from a very intellectual place, a family where science was the religion, basically. And then getting into studying yoga, becoming a certified yoga instructor, and then getting deeper into studying Buddhism and meditation, and really getting at the core of like, what is this human experience? Like, what is it about? And finding so much beauty and so much wisdom in all these traditions, and at the same time finding the muck as well, right? Like finding the corruption and finding the abuse. These things are real within the spiritual community as well, as we know. And learning to walk through it, really allowing into my heart what feels good, what feels nurturing, and releasing the things that are hurtful, and the things that are just not serving me and my evolution, and the earth and her evolution.
Yes.
So that's what brings me to now. I'm also a mother of two little ones, and I feel like the journey of motherhood has been so evocative to the whole spiritual journey of humanity.
Yes.
I just think that as mothers, we have this kind of a special and a particular understanding of divinity, and really embodying divinity. I love to bring that forward, because I think that for too long it has been hidden away. It has been denigrated as something that's not important. Where what I want to do is I want to lift that up, and never leaving behind the masculine, never. Because I think the feminine and the masculine work so beautifully together. And that, of course, is why the topic of this summit that is coming up February 14th through the 17th is sacred sex and sacred family. So how do we hold both of these concepts, these ideas, but not just as ideas up here, right? But how do we really bring them into our bodies and bring them into our day-to-day lives, as you were starting to talk about?
Right. Well, what's the unifying factor here is sacred. Okay, so you add on sacred sex, sacred family. And I feel like first we have to find out and come to the core of what that really means, what that means to us, to the sacredness. What I've found in these communities is that a lot of people are throwing around that word sacred sexuality, but really they have not yet found out what that actually means. What is sacred? And for me and from my own experience, and, you know, I had to actually experience through self-realization, through God realization, I had to experience the sacredness of my own being. That's first. You can't move on into sexuality and relationships and all these things if you have not yet come to the core of yourself and seen how pure, because a lot of these sacred sexuality circles are, you know, very impure. Okay. And, you know, there's just a lot of sex going on. The sacredness and the holiness and the purity and the innocence is not there. So what I want, you know, and what my experience is that first I have to sit with myself and I have to sit in my own silence and I have to meet God here, because to be sacred, for something to be sacred is to be infused with this invisible intelligence, with God. And so, you know, first I had to come to sit here with myself, to have a relationship with myself, and to find my own sexuality right here. And then you can go on to talk about, you know, relationships, family, friends, and sexuality. But I feel like some people are jumping putting the cart before the horse. They're not dealing with their own self-realization and sitting in overcoming their own traumas. Okay? They're not doing the inner work at all. And we're talking about sexuality, you know, and we're not ready for that conversation yet. So that's just been my experience that, you know, I have to first come here. That's first before I can relate with anybody. I have to first find out who I am and to relate with and to really come to the full experience, not just intellectual experience, but to experience the God within. Some people, you know, that is actually not easy. It's not easy. It's not. It's actually, it takes, you know, it takes a shedding of a lot of baggage, a lot of cultural conditioning, a lot of things, you know, that we really have to get rid of before we can even approach sexuality. And I feel like sacred sexuality and sacred family go hand in hand, because, and some people may argue with that. They may say, well, those are two separate topics for two totally different, you know, ideas. But I actually feel like it goes hand in hand, because what does nature show us about sexuality is it's to create. And this is just me, okay? I'm just speaking from my own personal experience. My sexuality is directly connected with my manifestation and my creation. And as you can see, you know, we come together, you know, in a sexual experience. Well, what comes out of that? A child, a creation. You created one of the most greatest things you could ever create, ever, a human being. So, you know, for me, and that's family. That's the creation of a family. And so when you honor your sexuality, when you honor, you know, who your body, your being, and you come together, two people who are God realized come together to create something very great's going to happen. And I feel that it's all about togetherness and about family and about love. It's not just limited to, you know, sex. You know, I feel like it's so much greater than that, you know.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much. Some really, really vital points that you touched on there. I love that you started from, you know, before we can even get into this conversation about sacred sex, like, hey, let's talk about self-love, self-acceptance.
Yes.
Let's really find that worthiness, that goodness, that that God inside ourselves
Yes.
before we start relating to each other, whether it's, with a parent or with a child or with your intimate partner.
Right.
Just, oh man, that's been such a powerful practice for me, just to come back to that, just to have that remembrance
Right.
of, hey, like my higher self is always there. Like I can always access that dimension. Um, and I would love if you wanted to talk about, like, practically, like, for folks who are struggling with this, like how do we do that? Like how do we find that within ourselves?
How
Like,
do you engage in the highest form of intimacy with
ooh.
your own self? Right. Right. Exactly. And so for me, there was a time where my sexual expression was suppressed through, the religion that I was not religion, but through the spiritual practices that I was in. I was heavily into Christianity at one point, which was my, just you're moving up the rungs of the ladder and exploring God. And so, my sexual expression was suppressed at one point. And then, I grew and matured, and through my awakening, it blossomed and came really into a full expression, and I'm still growing. But practically what I had to do was to take all that energy, because it's a lot of energy. If you find you have lots of sexual energy, just know that it's not necessarily that you have to go out and have sex. Maybe you need to create something. Maybe because it's directly connected with your creativity and your manifestation. And so it's not necessarily that you may have a sexual attraction. It's not necessarily that you have to actually go and have, do the actual act with somebody, especially if it's going to cause chaos in your life. But for me, my main practice, when I started my journey with metaphysics and with satsang, was to sit in silence, was to come and to sit and to let the things, how can I put this, to let the world go, in a sense. Mm-hmm. To let go of who it is that you think you are. Let go of all the things that life calls you to do each day. Let go of all of your identities as a mother, as a wife, as a friend, to come and to really to sit and to focus all of your attention on your energy body. Okay? And what that does is it's energetic hygiene. Okay? It's love. It's actually the true form of worship when you come and you honor your spiritual essence. Okay, so look, everything else is not important right now, but for these next 5 minutes, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to come and I'm going to do more than meditate. I'm going to cultivate. I'm going to sit and I'm going to sit in the richness of who I am, and I'm going to feel that, and I'm going to honor that, and I'm going to say thank you. And so these are things that, helped me to cultivate self-love, self-care, energetic hygiene. And when your attention is constantly flowing outside of yourself, through Facebook, you're looking at what other people are doing, you're learning, you're gathering information, you're downloading data constantly, or maybe you're with a lot of people and, you don't really have time to really sit in yourself and to come to your center. That's when there may be conflicting things that you may not be settled. So in order to really, for me, what was important was to actually make the time to do that self-love, self-care. That may not be sitting in silence. That may be working on your creation. It may be, it can come in different ways for different people, but just for me, that was something that really helped me, especially being a mother, because you're constantly caring for others and you're constantly giving out your attention. And so it's a good practice just to take the time, even if it's 5 minutes a day, even if it's 10 minutes, to take the time to sit, to get quiet, and to feel the invisible intelligence, the power of God coursing through your veins, coursing through your body and emanating through you. And to honor that and to say thank you. Thank you for this life. Thank you for this day. I appreciate everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, and just to come to that space of cultivation, to where you're actually acknowledging that, look, the power of God is with me here. I feel this. And I'm going to sit and I'm going to marinate in myself and honor the beauty that I found, That's self-love for me. That's self-love all day.
Yeah. No, that's so beautiful. And I love what you said that it does take on different forms for different people. I think for me as well, it really opened up for me when I started sitting meditation practice.
Yes.
And I spent quite a few years really doing that daily seated practice. And subsequently to that, I was able to move into other practices.
Yes.
But continue that kind of meditative, inner looking approach with it.
Yes.
So I love what you're saying.
Right. Introspection.
Mm-hmm.
To monitor your self-talk, because a lot of us have this inner dialogue that's not healthy.
Yeah, that self-critic.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and that, we have no natural enemies, but that could be your worst one, is actually your own inner dialogue. And so to really to face these things, to look at our triggers, things that trigger us, things that kind of can cause that self-dialogue to start up, and that self-criticism, really, it was at the age of 15 where I started to be the observer, to observe my thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned actually through the scripture to do that. Through reading the scripture, I said, wow, this is actually possible.
Yeah.
To observe your thoughts. Because it can be, actually, to navigate your inner world can be scary at times.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, it takes really a lot of perseverance at times, and it can be difficult. That's why many people are on prescription medications, just to be normal, just to feel normalized throughout their day. You're taking a prescription medication because the inner dialogue, it can really weigh you down. Yeah. So to cleanse yourself of all that and to come to a space of pure silence, it can take a while. It's not easy. It can be a battle at times. It can feel like a battle. Because, like you said, there's this other thing that wants to do something else. But your true essence, you want to really sit, and the more that you sit, it's like there's a little spark. It starts off as a little spark, but as the more you sit and cultivate and honor the truth that's within you, there's a vibration that comes, and it starts as a small, but it grows into just you enter, actually it can put you into states of total bliss,
Yeah.
because it's so good, and it feels so good to be in that universal vibration, to raise your vibration. That's basically what you're doing when you sit and you cultivate, and you really make that, that was my passion for years. And I have a big drive to discover more of this human technology.
Mm.
And it's through different things. It can be, for a while, for many years, it was sitting and cultivating in that way. Now I find I'm moving more toward a different, more dynamic expression of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I want people to do. I want you to understand too that, this energy, this sexual energy that you have, it may not be that you have to actually go and physically have sex.
Mm.
It may be something that's calling you to create and manifest. And a lot of times, if you keep your sexual energy here, that's very powerful for yourself too, and it's definitely a creative energy, and something that I feel, if we were to really understand more of how our technology works, we'd be able to use it in better ways too, and not just expel it here, expel it there. And that's one thing I think, when I heard that this was on sacred sexuality, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to fit into that really, because I have more of a conservative view.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not one to be spreading my sexual energy here and there and everywhere. I see the value in the sacredness of my sexuality, my sexual expression, and that's only for special people. You see what I mean? Like, that's valuable. What I'm going to give you is something that's so valuable. And
so powerful.
It's so powerful. Right.
With great power comes great responsibility.
That's more of where I'm coming from, and I also find that with my partner, with our sexuality, there's a creation going on, and there's manifestation. So we're creating our reality, really, is what we're doing. And it's through the sexuality that I feel like, I get lots of data.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
I know what you mean. Yeah, definitely. No, just about yourself, your partner, and just life in general. I feel like I've gotten some really crazy downloads,
Right. Right.
Where it's like, whoa, because you're getting to that state of heightened consciousness and you're fully embodied at the same time. And I think that can open a portal if you're willing to walk through the portal. That's another question.
Yeah, right. Because they're, and through the orgasm and the experience of that, definitely there are beautiful things. You have to have the right partner, though. For some, this is just my personal opinion, okay? I don't feel that it's good energetic hygiene to, just have all these different sexual partners.
Mm-hmm.
And there are actually studies that suggest that you are actually picking up this person's emotional body, okay? And you're intertwining energetically with this being. So before you decide to go and have sex with somebody, you need to say, would I want to be just like this person?
Mm.
Right. Like, you need to really choose and to be wise.
Yes. Can I take on this energy?
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Right. It's a decision. It's a, you You shouldn't just go on, feelings.
Right.
And lust.
Urge. Yes.
Urge. Right. But also too, you don't want to suppress your sexual energy either. So it's a balance. Every situation's different. You may it may be the thing that you had sex with this person and that's all that it was. And you energetically connected and it was okay. I'm not against that, but I'm just, with this culture and with the time that we're living, I feel like people are so far this way, where they're just very loose. And especially for women.
Yeah.
You're very loose with your sexuality. And, with all these tantric communities and all this stuff, I don't have anything to do with that. So, and then I also feel that there's this other side where people are way too tight.
Right. Yeah.
So meet in the middle.
Expressing it or kind of like putting it all out there.
Right. Right.
But there is a middle way.
I feel that there is. I feel we're learning that.
Yeah. I just love this conversation so much, and I want to be really respectful of your time. So I kind of just have one more question or comment that I would love for you to maybe talk a little bit about. So sacred family, dealing with family, from what I've seen from myself personally and also my clients, dealing with family members can be the most triggering, right? The most like emotionally charged. Like those are the people that are closest to us are the people that really piss us off and just make us go like, this is what I find for myself. But I also see it out in the world. So I want to say that. So how do we make the family more sacred, right? Like, how do we treat family, our children, our parents, our partners, like those relationships? Like, how do we really find the sacredness?
Well, I would say first off, and as a mother, know that you don't own or possess anyone. So I feel like that's the first thing that, this life that has come through me into this world, I don't own, nor do I possess, nor do I want to control other people. So that, that's for all of us. So family, this is very interesting because, when I grew up, I didn't have my father there. And we didn't have a family life. Okay. So when I started my first marriage, that was, my drive was to create a family and to have family life. And I actually was able to do that. I was able with my ex-husband to create a beautiful family, a beautiful life. And I have those relationships I have beautiful relationships with my sons. They're beautiful human beings. I've set them free. Okay. I trust that the universe, these are the universe's children. Okay. And I'm there as their guide, as their mother, as, I will protect you. I will honor you, but I will not control you. I will not, be there to try to manipulate your life. That's not why I'm here. And I actually know that my children have created me. Okay, so as much as we as adults and parents think that we are the guides for these young beings, they're actually the guides for us. And that's how I see it. My children are my gurus. And within the family structure, within my old marriage, it was interesting because the dynamics were not, as far as the role of man and woman, that in husband and wife, the role of husband and wife was very tight. And that's why the marriage fell apart.
Uh,
So, right, because he wanted me to be in that strict role of wife, and he's in that strict role of husband. And so what I find is that when we hold each other to tight roles, that there's a tightness that comes within the family structure, that doesn't have to be there. Everybody should be free to express themselves and to live fully in their expression. But now, aside from that, let's say, in this beautiful new family that I'm building here, with my new spouse, it's wonderful because we know we're going to trigger each other. It's part of it. Love and family has nothing to do with unicorns and cake and roses. Okay? It has nothing to do with that. You're going to trigger each other. You're actually going to trigger, especially in a romantic relationship, you're going to trigger the deepest and darkest things in each other. Now, the question is, are you able to go through that? Are you able to sit and to humble yourself, to admit when you're wrong, to use wisdom and to really to see the ways that this trigger is not specific to this person. This person may trigger something, but that trigger was in me the whole time. So I think it's just kind of through every relationship is a special assignment. So through these relationships, we're learning more and growing more. And that should be the main focus in your relationship. It shouldn't be to feel good. It will make you feel good and there will be good times. But the main focus in my relationships is, first of all, to build and create together, and to be able to go through those triggers and to come out of them together. Because a lot of times when we trigger each other, that's it, it's over. But also too, every person has to be allowed to be free in their self-expression and to be free to grow, and that we don't hold expectations. There will be some expectations in every relationship, but when they become very rigid, that's when the relationship's going to break down. That's what happened with my marriage, was that there was way too many expectations of me, and I also had expectations, which is natural, but when they become so rigid that it makes people unhappy. When you're causing unhappiness, when you're causing chaos, that's when there's a problem, So I just feel like, you're going to be triggered, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a romantic relationship, whether it's the relationship with your children. You're going to get triggered. They're going to trigger the hell out of you.
Oh, yeah.
But can you actually be introspective enough to look within yourself and see, to see beyond the person and not blame that person, but to look within you and say, well, why am I triggered by this? Why am I triggered by this? And also to actually come to a space of humility and softness, like to be soft about it and to be able to look at yourself and to be honest. So that's what I find is probably hard with people, is that somebody triggers you and you want to blame that person. And it's going to be the people that are closest to you. They're going to be the ones that are going to trigger you. So if you're looking for a romantic relationship, you're looking to be with somebody, and you have idea of roses and candlelight dinners, you may want to rethink. Okay? Because it's going to be trigger central. You're going to be triggered, and, you have to, the love that you have and you share and that you're growing and blossoming into has to be greater than your pride. I want to say pride because a lot of times we don't want to see the trauma that's within us. We're too proud. We want to point the finger at other people. So a lot of times that's kind of what breaks down relationships, the expectation, the pride. Nobody wants to humble themselves to really compromise and to talk things out and to have an open communication. you know? So, and that goes with relationships across the board,
Yeah.
you know?
Ooh, you broke it down. Thank you so much. I mean, this is so valuable. This is gold here. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate you, sister.
Well, thank you for reaching out. It's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
Oh, I'm so glad I did.
Yeah. Thank you.